More than a quarter of South Africa's population suffers from depression, yet only 1 in 4 people seeks the necessary help. This is according to the South African Society of Psychiatrists. Now, with July being Mental Illness Awareness Month, the organization has raised concerns over the continued stigma around the use of antidepressants. Now, to help us demystify these misconceptions, I am now joined by Dr. Gagu Matsebula, who is with the South African Society of Psychiatrists. Dr. Matsebula, thank you for making time for us. These are really shocking statistics. When you look at this, more than a quarter of South Africa's population that suffer from depression, you only have about 1 in 4 seeking the necessary help. What's the reason behind this? Is the help not accessible, or is it just too expensive?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. So it's a variety of reasons that block people from accessing care. The biggest that we've noticed, unfortunately, is stigma. Mental illnesses like depression and anxiety, unfortunately, are not yet that well understood in South Africa. And another big stigma is the fact that if a person has depression, they are scared that they'll be viewed as being weak or less than or unable to cope with the stresses of life, which is not true. Is the assistance available? Yes, it is readily available in all sectors of the healthcare sector. I think the big thing that we need to help people with is to overcome stigma, and I think having discussions on a platform like this one is definitely going to go a long way in helping that.
Yeah, and the stigmas have always been there around, mental illness. As you say, some people are regarded as, well, they feel they'll be weak when they admit and they seek the necessary help. Are we seeing, from your experience, more and more people beginning to understand this condition? And is enough awareness being created as well?
There is certainly an awareness that there's something going on with the mental health of South Africans, Africans, and indeed the global citizens of this planet. The South African Depression and Anxiety Group just released statistics that showed that after the pandemic that we've just gone through, the number of calls going into their helpline has gone up by 400%. Life insurers as well have also been releasing their stats that also show that unfortunately there is this increase in people having to be booked off work and claiming income protection cover because of the complications of depression and anxiety. So yes, there definitely is this awareness, but I think more can be done with this regard. More awareness definitely is required.
So let's talk about issues of treatments, because it's important to note that depression is it's treatable through medication. You can address those underlying biological issues contributing to this condition. What misconceptions are still out there about the benefits and use of antidepressants?
Thank you for that. So there's actually many myths and fears that are out there, but some of the big ones are, firstly, that antidepressants are addictive, which certainly is not true. Antidepressants as a class of medication are not addictive. The other big one is that individuals feel that should they start antidepressants, it somehow means that they are weak or they need some temporary crutch, which is not the case. If we should develop a headache, we don't feel we're being weak if we go and ask for, say, a painkiller. And likewise, when it comes to antidepressants, we shouldn't worry that having to take this medication means that there's something inherently wrong with you. And the last big one that we see is that people feel that when they take antidepressants, it's going to change them, or it's going to make them zombies, or it'll make them woozy, or things like that. Antidepressants don't do that. All antidepressants do is work on the biological changes that happen in the brain and to restore the brain to a healthier state and making the depressive symptoms better and eventually to go away.
So the most common treatment approach then, I would imagine, combines what you've just spoken about, the medication aspect, but also with talk therapy. Why is this important? So when you are treating it, is it best to just focus on one, or this psychotherapy is more helpful?
Thank you for that. So indeed, the optimal outcome we get when we combine antidepressants and psychotherapy or talk therapy. The reason talk therapy is such an essential part of this is when a person develops depression or anxiety or other mental illnesses, the way they think about themselves, the way they think about their environment, the way they think about the future even, that becomes unhealthy. And this then opens the door to a reduction in motivation, reduced self-esteem, feeling guilty for no reason, and in some severe cases starting to think about death. So we need to help the patient change the way they think about these things. The healthier a person thinks, the healthier they feel, and the healthier their actions will be. And you combine this with antidepressants, that's where you get the optimal outcome.
And is it the kind of medication you take in perpetuity for as long as you've got the bouts of depression? Or is this the medication you take when you are feeling really down?
So, no. I'll answer your question thus. Depression, like any other illness, has got different levels of severity. Mild depression, you don't need antidepressants. You just need a bit of counseling and should be fine. Moderate to severe depression, if you're being treated for the first time, there you're looking at 6 to 9 months. If you've been treated with antidepressants and the depression has come back, then there we do need to extend the treatment period. There you're looking at about a year to 2 years. In many instances, being treated with antidepressants is not a lifelong treatment. Unfortunately, there are those rare circumstances where you do need to treat an individual indefinitely, but those cases, unfortunately, are there. And it's not a blanket rule that you'll have to take antidepressants for the rest of your life.
Okay, so at what point should someone seek help? So what symptoms should they look out for to know that, okay, it's now time to see someone and maybe start even considering the medication?
Thank you. So the moment a person starts to notice that they are no longer enjoying things that they used to enjoy previously, they notice that their motivation is going down. Sleep, they're either sleeping a lot or not sleeping at all. Appetite, they notice that they're not eating or they're eating a lot of comfort food. They're noticing that they're starting to feel lethargic. Energy levels have gone out of the window. Memory, concentration, those have gone out of the window. And they're having these strange bodily pains that are not responding to any forms of painkillers. These could be headaches. These could be pain in the neck. It could be pain in anywhere in their body. And thoughts of death or thoughts of uselessness. There we then say, please go to your local clinic or go to your family doctor and speak to them about these symptoms, and they will definitely assist you.
Okay, and how do, in your experience, people normally respond to the first prescription of antidepressants? Are there any side effects?
Yes. So there are two big groups of side effects that we see across the different classes of antidepressants. The first one is when you start taking the medication, the tummy might be a bit upset, or you might have a bit of a headache, but these should be mild. There we're looking at about a day, 2 days maximum, and these should be transient or temporary. In other words, you take the medication, you get a bit of a tummy ache, a bit of a headache, but this should settle with time and then you should be fine. Those are the big ones. We do have other side effects that do come up. But what we recommend people do is when you start taking the medication and you start to experience something going on in your body, be it in your tummy or this headache or nausea, please speak to your clinician. And that person should be able to either assist you by changing the doses of the antidepressants, and in some cases, if the doctor needs to change that medication, they'll do that for you.
All right. Dr. Matsebula, thank you so much for joining us for this important conversation.